All right, get ready to dive into one of the biggest mysteries on the planet. We're about to travel to a desert in South America, where we're going to uncover some giant ancient drawings that have been hiding out in the open for like 2,000 years. This is going to be so cool.
Okay, just think about this for a second. What if you drew a picture, right? But it was so big that you couldn't even see what it was while you were standing next to it? Like, you'd literally have to get in an airplane and fly way up high just to see your own masterpiece? Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Well, guess what? It's totally real. Way down in a desert in Peru, there are hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of giant drawings just like that, etched right into the ground. And they've got a really cool name. They're called the Nazca lines. And get this, these drawings aren't just a few years old. They're around 2,000 years old. That is way older than anyone you know. We're talking ancient history here. They've been sitting there in the desert for a super long time. And when I say they're big, I'm not kidding. Some of the largest ones stretch out for 370 meters. To give you an idea, that's longer than 3 football fields laid end to end. Just massive. There's actually a fancy word for art this big made on the ground. It's called a geoglyph. Pretty cool, huh? So, what did they draw? You won't believe it. There are all these amazing shapes of animals. We're talking a monkey with this awesome swirly tail, a super detailed spider, a hummingbird that looks like it's about to fly away, even a dog and a whale. And then there's this one really weird one. It kind of looks like an astronaut. An astronaut? What's that all about? All right, so giant drawings in the middle of a desert. Let's get into our first big question. So yeah, who on earth made these things so long ago? I mean, really think about it. 2,000 years ago. No airplanes, no drones, not even a simple camera. So who were these mystery artists? Well, we know who they were. They were made by the Nazca people. This was an ancient culture, a group of really smart people who lived right there in that part of Peru a long time ago. Okay, but how? This is the part that just gets me every time. How did they manage to make these drawings so perfect without being able to see what they were doing from above? It's a huge puzzle. Turns out, their method was actually pretty simple, but totally genius. Here's what they did. First, they must have planned out the drawing. Then, step 2, they just scraped away the top layer of the ground, which was covered in these dark reddish rocks. And what was underneath? Lighter colored sand. So by clearing away the dark stuff, they revealed the light stuff, creating a perfect outline. It's kind of like drawing on a giant dusty canvas. Okay, so for every great mystery, you need a great detective, right? Well, the Nazca lines have one, and she's a total hero. Let's talk about Maria Reich. So this woman, Maria Reich, was from Germany. She saw these lines and just fell in love with the mystery. And she didn't just visit them once or twice. Nope. She spent her entire life trying to figure them out. We're talking decades of her life spent out there in the desert studying and protecting them. You can see just how long she was at it. She moved to Peru way back in 1932. A few years later, in 1940, she officially started studying the drawings. By 49, she was writing books about it. But maybe her most important work came much later, in 1994, when she helped get the Nazca lines protected as a World Heritage Site. That means they're safe for all of us to learn about. What an amazing person. Okay, so we know who made them, and we have a pretty good idea of how they made them. But that brings us to the biggest question of all, the one that really gets people talking. Why? Yeah, seriously, why did the Nazca people make these giant drawings? Why would you spend all that time and energy on something you couldn't even see properly from the ground? It's a real head-scratcher. Let's dive into some of the theories. So here's the thing. Nobody knows the answer for sure. But there are some awesome ideas out there. Could it have been a giant calendar that used the sun and stars to tell time? Or maybe a giant prayer to their gods asking them for rain? Some even think it could be a map to find water hidden underground. So many possibilities. Okay, let's look at 2 of the biggest ideas. Idea 1 comes from our detective Maria Reich. She thought the lines were basically a giant sky calendar, pointing to where the sun and stars rise and set. Super helpful for knowing when to plant crops, right? But then there's idea 2, a prayer for rain. This desert is one of the driest places in the world, so maybe, just maybe, drawing these huge animals was a way of asking the gods to please send some water.
Both ideas make a lot of sense.
So it's pretty amazing these drawings are still around after 2,000 years. Let's talk about how we can save this giant art.
So, how have they lasted so long? It's actually because of the weather. The Nazca Desert is super, super dry. There's hardly any rain or wind to blow them away. So, nature has basically kept them safe and sound all this time. It's like they're in a giant natural museum. But today, there are new dangers they've never faced before. Things like cars and trucks driving too close, even just people accidentally walking on them can cause damage. And what's really scary is that changes in the climate could bring more rain, which could wash them away for good. That's why protecting them is so important. And that's why people like Maria Reiche are such heroes. Thanks to her and others who care, the Nazca lines are now a protected treasure. They belong to the whole world now, for all of us to wonder about and protect. And you know what the coolest part is? The story isn't over. The mystery is still being solved. Scientists are actually still finding brand new lines, thanks to cool technology like drones. It feels like every few years we uncover another piece of this giant puzzle. There are still so many secrets waiting in that desert.
So that makes me wonder, and I want to ask you this. If you could draw a giant message for people to find thousands of years from now, what would it be? What picture would you leave behind for the future to discover? Pretty cool thing to think about, isn't it?